Sorry guys, I had to pause there for a second while I started the recording. Tonight's class, Introduction to 3D Design with Tinkercad. We're going to be showing you the basics on how to use this free online tool called Tinkercad. It's actually produced by Autodesk, which is one of the leaders in 3D design. But Tinkercad is a really nice, easy tool to use, especially to introduce you to the basics of 3D design. And I'll show you guys here pretty soon what we're going to focus on. I'll show you the basic features that Tinkercad has to offer, and that includes additional things like coding and circuits as well. So it's pretty neat. That's something new they've added recently. And then we'll dive into what Tinkercad calls the Workplane. That's essentially where you can design your 3D object. And then we'll also, in tonight's class, demonstrate how to create a 3D object. I know this is kind of a different format. Normally a class like this, it'd be in person. You can raise a hand and ask a question. So if you do have any questions that pop up along the way, there's a Q&A feature down at the bottom of your screen. And there's also a chat feature as well. So feel free. I prefer the Q&A. That would only give you one thing to pay attention to here, but feel free to ask a question at the Q&A spot. And if you'd like to follow along with me when I go and log into Tinkercad, feel free to do so. If not, this session is recorded, so we'll have that posted on our YouTube channel as well, so you can go back and take a look at that too. All right, so different ways to use 3D design. I've been teaching 3D design classes for probably six and a half years now, using Tinkercad. And it's run the gamut of all the different things that we've been able to instruct people for. Through my time, we've had teachers that have taken it and actually used it in their math classes besides technology classes. A really neat example is of a father and daughter. They actually created a to-scale model of their 3-story home. That was really neat to see. And it's just really great too for 3D printing. You can design your objects, download them, and export them to your 3D printer, all from Tinkercad. And then if there's any Minecraft fans out there, excuse me, the Tinkercad works wonderfully with Minecraft. You can either create something in Tinkercad and export it to Minecraft, or if you created something really cool in Minecraft, you can import it to Tinkercad and then prep it for 3D printing. So we're going to show you guys all that here and introduce you to a little bit more. So let's dive in here. I'm going to share my screen with you guys here. Here we go. So this is Tinkercad, tinkercad.com. Again, it's free. The only thing you need to do when you sign up for Tinkercad, you just need an email address, and it will ask you if you're 13 years or older. You can answer that question and then move forward. If you're not 13 or under, you need to get your parents' permission. Just let them know that you're using this software, and you'll be set to go. They'll get an email. They'll okay you to use the website, and then you're ready to go. In all the years that I've used Tinkercad, I've never once had any issues with it, and especially in relation to spam emails. I have not. You don't even get one if you haven't used the account in 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months. So they don't send you any emails, so your inbox won't be bombarded with any junk emails. But real quickly here, right along the top here, there's a couple things I wanted to point out to you guys. The gallery, it's pretty neat. It's full of, thousands upon thousands of different community creations that people have designed using Tinkercad. It's really neat to see the creativity and ingenuity of a lot of different people and what they've been able to create. And what's really neat too, once we get logged in here, if we hover over an object that we really like, it will allow us to download it and tinker it in our own profile. And that's what makes Tinkercad pretty special, is that it's really made up of a community of makers that want to share their creations. They want you to learn. They want you to be able to take it and tinker with it and turn it into something of your own creation. So that's pretty neat. The other option that I want to show you guys here is the Learn option. This is relatively new to Tinkercad, especially within the past, gosh, I'd say 7 months to a year. They started adding a lot more than just 3D design. They have electronics where you can assemble and program things just like you would if with an old electronic set, except it's all done digitally here online. It's pretty neat to see. There's also the design with code, this new code blocks feature that they have. I haven't had a chance to test that out, but just more options here for you as well. So I'm going to go ahead and sign in. If you'd like to, go ahead, follow along, and you can join now. You're just going to need your email address and create a password with Tinkercad. So go ahead, and at this moment, I'm just going to check to see if we have any questions, anything going on in the chat here. And I will sign in. And that way I can give you all a second, if you're creating a Tinkercad account, that you can go ahead and get that going. Doesn't look like we have any questions. So let's go ahead. Yes, that's my old address from the library I used to be at. All right, so here we are. When you sign into your Tinkercad account, this is what's going to pop up. You're going to get your page here of your designs. That's going to be the first thing that they're going to show you on here. You've got your avatar. That's the default avatar that I have on there. You can change that or update that to whatever you like. And let's see what else I want to point out to you guys here. You have all your different circuits, your code blocks if you want to get into that, and also the lessons. This is pretty cool. These are the lessons that I have been tinkering around with. But if you go back to the Learn tab over here on the top, they have all these different starter projects that you can work on, and also some full-on lessons that will walk you through how to create these party glasses, chess pawn, ruler, and then this pretty cool little luggage tag. So definitely check those out. And don't worry, we won't be doing either of these projects, so it'll be something new for you. All right. So when you're ready to start designing, it's very simple. You click right here on the blue tab here, Create New Design. And this takes you to what Tinkercad calls the Workplane in the bottom left-hand corner there. Workplane. This is where you can start creating. The most interesting thing I think about Tinkercad is its default file name, Brilliant Jagabaris. I don't know, whatever that might be, however that's pronounced. But my whole joke is if you are getting an amateur wrestler, or you're an amateur wrestler, open up a couple new files of these and grab a name from each one of those files, and you got your new wrestling name. So that's something that we'll change here in a minute too. Moving down, these are your different navigation features. Right here, you've got your square where it's showing the top and the front of an object. If we had the object down, you can rotate to left, back, and bottom, so you can go underneath. That's a pretty cool feature. This home button will automatically take you back to home, where the work plane is on the left-hand side. You've got your zoom in, you get your zoom out. And what's really neat about these navigation features is you can do it all with your mouse. Highly recommend using a mouse when working with Tinkercad. It provides so much more navigational power, ability to move around the screen. So for example, to zoom in and out, you just use the scroll wheel and scroll the wheel in to zoom in, scroll the wheel out to zoom out. If you want to rotate the work plane, you just hold down on your right click on your mouse and you can zoom around. Pretty cool. And to get these other options highlighted, I'm actually going to place an object on the work plane here, and then I'll introduce everything else here real quickly. So I'm just going to click and drag a box out onto the work plane. And now you can see we've got a couple things highlighted. We can copy and then you can paste that object if we wanted to. Copy and paste, just like Microsoft Word. You can duplicate and repeat, which is very similar. You can trash it and delete it if you wanted to. And this undo button will be your best friend when you're using Tinkercad. You'll be clicking on this a lot. What I would say though, because it is cloud-based, when you click on it, it might not revert back to your previous object before you made the change. Just give it a second. It'll go through. And then since I put an object on the work plane here, we also see some other stuff on here. This box popped up. You can change color. If you're 3D printing, this color means really nothing. This is more for your design. Some people like to design in stages. So maybe their stage 1 is red, stage 2 is green, or there's certain components or parts of your design that you want to make stand out, and you can use these color options. The whole option, that's really neat. That actually takes that space or that object that you put on the work plane, and it turns it into a voided space. I'll show you guys here this with the lesson that we're going to cover today. This we'll illustrate this a little better here for you. So now I just changed it back to a solid object. And on the object itself, you notice there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of squares. If you hover over each square, it shows you the dimension of the object. And right now we're dealing with millimeters. So we're looking at a 20 by 20 millimeter. We just want to see this side of the object here. If we hover over the black square, it shows you it's 20 millimeters. And you can pull on either one of these. So the white squares will move the object, will expand the object both depth and width-wise. And then you can pull out just the black squares will just move that side of the object. Up on top, you notice there's rotate it a little bit here. There's a white square on top that will allow you to make the object taller. And there's a triangle or a cone here on the top above the white square that adjusts the height. That cone allows you to sink your object below the work plane. So if you change your view, you can see that it's sinking about halfway underneath the work plane, or it'll allow you to elevate your object above the work plane. And a lot of people at this point will ask, well, what's the point of being able to either elevate it or lower it below sea level, I like to say. Anything that you save that is below the work plane will not be 3D printed. So that's something to keep in mind, especially if you're trying to print something that's too big for the 3D printer that you have. You can, this is an easy way to kind of chop it in half and print from there. And another neat feature is why would you want to elevate it? Well, this allows you to build blocks on top of each other, but there's an easier way to do that than elevating and trying to figure out the math behind that. And I'll show you that here too. One cool feature too. So right now we are elevated 22 millimeters off the work plane here. We've got our object highlighted. Oh, no, it's not. But if you click on the object, see that light blue hue around it? That means the object's highlighted, and you can just simply press the D key, D as in David, on your keyboard, and that will drop it flush with the work plane. So you're back to where you started there on the work plane. All right. So we got a couple other features here, show all, group and ungroup. I'll introduce those to you as well in the coming lesson here. And there's a couple more features here, a nice align tool and then a mirror tool as well. They're all pretty handy here. And real quickly before we begin, the work plane, we'll show you how the work plane can move. It's not just this flat surface here, it can be moved. And we also have a ruler feature, which is really nice. sets you up and shows you all the dimensions of your object. So maybe you wanted to make this, instead of 64 millimeters tall, you wanted to drop it down to 44. You can just punch in 44 and hit enter. And there you go, you've already adjusted the height. And then Tinkercad, besides these basic shapes, Tinkercad has a variety of different things here. We've got text and numbers, all the letters and the numbers in there. The text feature is really cool. You can just drop this in and change your text. So change it from text to books. There we go. Real easy. You can have some font options that you can change. There's all sorts of different characters, connectors. There's a shape generator. There's some neat stuff in here that you can explore and play around with. So let's see. Doesn't look like at this point we have any questions, so we'll dive right into the lesson that we're going to work on. So first things first, we've got a couple things here on the Workplane. We want to clear this off. We could easily just click on New and get a new Workplane to appear. But what I think is even easier here is if you just highlight everything on your Workplane by simply just clicking in the top left corner and dragging down to the bottom right. You highlight everything. You capture everything that's on the Workplane, and then you can just hit your delete key. And everything is gone. We've removed it. We still have the ruler on there. The ruler stayed on. We can just hit the X here to dismiss the ruler. And there we go. We got a fresh new Workplane. I'm just going to hit my home button here to realign us. And let's go back to the basic shapes. So here we go. I have taught this lesson for about 6 or 6.5 years. So if anybody can guess what we're going to build as we're going along, do so. No one has been able to guess it so far. It's not an everyday object that we're creating, but it's something I think you might be able to pick up on. So if you're following along, here's what we're going to do. We're going to grab a red box here, and we're just going to drag it and place it in the middle of the Workplane. And then we're going to do the same thing, but grab an orange cylinder. And what you want to do is you want to try to place it as close as you can to where the orange cylinder is half inside the red box and half outside. So I'm just trying to get as close as I can. But what you want to do on your keyboard is use the arrow keys. That allows you to manipulate the highlighted object, moving it 1 millimeter at a time. And you want to get it lined up to where, change my view, it aligns with the sides of the box, as well as being half inside the red box and half outside. That looks good enough to me. Looks pretty close. And what you're going for is kind of like the free throw line of in a basketball court. And I mentioned to you guys already our grid. Right down here in the bottom right corner, you can edit the grid. And you can change the units if you want to, from millimeters to inches. What's also pretty neat is Tinkercad has some default 3D printer settings in here. So if you're working with a specific printer that you know you're going to be printing on, you can select one of those and it will update the grid so you know how much space you have to work with here. And then the snap grid, this is especially good for detail. If you're trying to move things just a little bit, you can change those grids, those snap grids here. I'm not going to mess around with any of that here, but just wanted to point that out to everybody. So back to our object, we have our free throw line. So right now we have 2 objects on our Workplane. What I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in a little bit using my mouse wheel. Just going to scroll in, pushing that mouse wheel forward. I'm going to click on the red box here. I actually want to highlight both of them. So there's a couple ways you can do it. The way I already showed you guys was you could highlight both those objects by clicking and dragging, and now you can see a light blue hue that forms around both objects. I'm going to click off of that to show you another way. If you already have an object highlighted, like for example here I have the red box that's already highlighted, what you can also do is click and hold down on the Shift key and click on, and at the same time as you're holding down the Shift key, you can click on the orange square and you have both objects highlighted. And then let's see here. So we got both objects highlighted, and what we're going to do is we're going to manipulate the length of this object and the height. So first things first, we'll change the height. We're going to drop it down from 20 to 10. Enter. There we go, we've got 10. And then what we're going to do, we're going to expand the length out here. So right now it's at 30, and we're going to expand it out to 35. And you can click and drag. Sometimes you might have a little trouble trying to get it right on 35. So you can just come right down here, click on the number, punch in 35, hit enter, and you're set up. So we just expanded our free throw line, and we're ready for the next step. What I'd recommend is everybody to click on their home button. That will kind of pull you out a little bit more of a bird's eye view. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab our second red box. We're going to click, and we're going to again place this on the left-hand side. This is important. You want to place on the left-hand side of the original red box. And what we did with the cylinder, just how we did with the cylinder, we want to make this half inside, half outside our original red box. So I think that looks close enough. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. And if you want to move the object, guys, make sure it's highlighted. Because right now, if you look at my screen, nothing is highlighted. So if I try to use my arrow keys on my keyboard, nothing's going to happen. So make sure you click on the object and there's a light blue hue around the object that you want to move. If you see another light blue hue around another one of the objects, just click off on the work plane here and then click back on the object that you want to be able to move. So I'm just going to line that up and check my view to make sure the edges line up as well. They look like they do. Great. All right, so now I'm going to click back and highlight that second red box that we placed down. And we have all of our different options that come up. What we want to do right now, we have a 20 millimeter by 20 millimeter, object. And we want to shrink that down from 20 by 20 to 8 by 8. The easiest way you can do that, you can hold down on your Shift key, and at the same time, you want to click on the black box that's on the right-hand side and drag the object in. And you can see the numbers shrinking down one by one there. So we get to 8. And there, so we just went from a 20 by 20 box down to an 8 by 8 box. This point gets to be a little tricky for some people, so be patient. Remember, you have your undo button here that you can go back to and click undo. But again, you want to hold down on your Shift key, click on the black square here on the right-hand side, and drag it in. Click and drag it in. And then let go of your Shift key, let go of the mouse click there, and there you go. You got your 8 by 8 object. And this will be the first of 5 towers that we're going to create. So to create that tower, we're just going to you can just scroll in a little bit to get a better view of this white square here on top. And we want to raise this object up to at least as tall as, it's got to be higher than 10, so we can see it above the free throw court here. So I've raised mine to 29, just as long as it's higher than 10, so 11 to whatever you want will work. And the next thing that we're going to do with this tower is we're going to rotate it. We're going to rotate it 45 degrees. You can do this a couple different ways to make this easy for yourself. I'm going to hit undo, so I go back to our original look here. And so now you can see, because my viewpoint changed, the rotational arrows here moved over, and you can see there's 3 of them. It's for the X, the Y, and the Z axes. So there's 3 different ways that you can spin this object. The one that we're concerned with right here is right here at the bottom. So you saw me trying to drag this around for 45 degrees. That's going to be really difficult to try to line up because there's no lock. You know, it doesn't, every 45, you know, it just goes real slow. If you go outside the dial there, I guess you could call it, the sundial or the degrees here, it goes by 1 degree, by 1 degree, by 1 degree. If you go inside, it locks at every 22.5 degrees. Or you can just simply click in there and type in 45. Enter. There we go. All right. So next, what we want to do, so we've got our tower. We've just rotated 45 degrees. It should still be highlighted, so make sure that it's highlighted and that it's the only object that's highlighted. And then what we want to do is, using the right arrow key on your keyboard, this is the easiest way to do this, just tap that key until you get the tower just like this. So it's half inside the free throw line, half outside. And that's our first tower. And we also want it to line up in the middle of that free throw court too, or the free throw line. So just how it is here in relation. We don't want it too far off to the side over here. We want it lining up directly in the middle. Just like that. All right. So now what I'm going to have everybody do is hit your home key. So we go back to home. We're going to zoom in just a little bit. And the important part now is what we're going to do is we have one tower, and we're going to turn this into 4 more towers. At this point, I'm just going to take a quick time out and ask a question. Does anybody know what we're building? Does anybody have any guesses? Feel free to use the question and answer panel there. If anybody has any guesses what we're trying to build here. Barry, you raised your hand. What do you think we're building here? Can you put your answer in the Q&A? Oh, sorry, misclick. All right, no worries. We'll keep going on with the lesson here, and hopefully you guys will see here what we're going to be making here pretty soon. So we've got our one tower. We're going to turn this into, we're going to create 4 more towers to give us a total of 5. There's a couple ways you can do this. One way, make sure your tower that you want to duplicate is highlighted, and you can just click on it just to make sure. At another point, you want to make sure nothing else is highlighted, nothing else has a light blue hue around it, just your tower. You can come up over here and you can click on copy and then paste. What's neat is that anything that you copy and paste is just going to appear immediately to the right of the original object. Or you can hit the duplicate object, which is just duplicating the object at where it's at. Well, that doesn't help us for the purpose of this lesson. So we use the copy and paste feature here. You can also do a keyboard shortcut. You got your object highlighted here. You can hit Control C at the same time. That will do the copy. And then Control V, the paste keyboard shortcut. And then once you've hit Control C, it remembers that. And all you have to do now, we've got 3 towers. All you have to do is hit Control V 2 more times, Control V1, V2, and you have your 5 towers assembled. If you want, you can zoom in a little bit better there with the mouse wheel there, so you can see each individual tower. The last tower that was duplicated or copied has the light blue hue around it, so we know that that's the last active object. And now what we want to do, we want to highlight all 5 towers. And we only want just these 5 towers. We don't want to highlight the free throw line. So we could try and do the click and drag option with the mouse. But a lot of times, especially with a lot of first-time users, we find that that gets a little frustrating because they might drag too far down and highlight everything, because you can see the light blue hue going around the free throw line there. We don't want that. So what I instruct everybody to do is just with that last object being highlighted, zoom in a little closer so you can easily tell each individual tower. Hold down on your shift key on your keyboard and then click on each individual tower. So now we have all 5 towers highlighted, and our free throw line, or the base of our model, is not highlighted. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take those 5 towers and turn it into void space. And you can just do that very easily by clicking right here on the whole option. Look, it takes all that space the towers were made up of, and just voids through and cuts right through our free throw line. So there we are. And you can see it goes all the way through to the other side. All right, so we're almost done. We're getting close to the end here. Any guesses? Anybody? Any guesses on what we're creating? We're getting there. So now we've created our void space. And now what we're going to do, right now we have our 5 towers and our original red square and our orange cylinder. So we technically have 7 objects on our work plane. And what we're going to do is we're going to take all those 7 individual objects and combine them into one object. And we're going to use the group feature that will be highlighted here once we start grouping these together here. So the easiest way, since we want to do all 7 objects, easiest way to highlight them all at once is to just use your mouse and click and drag like you're highlighting a paragraph in Microsoft Word. And there we go. We have all 7 objects highlighted, ready to go. And you can see up in the top right here, we've had all these objects or all these options become available. One of them is the group option, and that's exactly what we want. You can click group, or they have a keyboard shortcut that they're instructing you. You can use Control G to group as well. And there we go. Voila. After clicking group, you can see that what the whole feature does. It literally cuts through that object there. And that's it. That's our object, guys. This is, you're like, holy cow, Frank, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Yeah, it is, especially when you 3D print it. This will take about 25 minutes to 3D print, maybe a little faster or slower depending on your 3D printer. But this is a potato chip clip that you can use to, keep your potato chip bags or cookie bags, whatever you might have, airtight there. So they don't get stale. I've had a lot of people that have modified this over the years to expand this area so they can glue a magnet on it, and they have a bunch of these sticking in their refrigerators. So that's pretty neat to see. But yeah, you got a potato chip clip here. Pretty neat. So one thing I told you guys that I was going to show you, this is kind of part 2 of our lesson here. I'm going to show you, I talked originally at the beginning of how the work plane can move. And right now, it kind of acts as our table that we're building our object on. What you can do is you can click on a work plane to grab a new work plane, and then you can place it anywhere on the object. You can place it on top, on the side. You can even change your view and place it on the bottom. But for the purpose of this lesson, I'm just going to get a side view here, and I'm going to place the work plane on the side. You can see we've got a dramatic shift here. And now with putting the work plane here on the side, what this does is this allows us to build directly on this side of the potato chip clip. So for example, let's go to our text in numbers. We could, it's gonna be really big here, but we can change that here to, let's see if this works. How the ruler came up there, must have accidentally clicked it. So there we go. There's Frank. And now what we can do is we can shrink this name and then click and drag it over here to the side of our potato chip clip. And you can see it's literally being built right on the side of the potato chip clip. So then everybody will know this is Frank's potato chip bag. Don't mess with it. What's also neat too is you can indent this and push this object in using the elevate cone or the levitate cone. You can push it in. You can see that it's going right now. It's going in 1 millimeter, now 2 millimeters, and I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to show you again here. There's a nice little hole feature that you can do, and it creates void space. So you've just created an indentation into the side of your potato chip clip. And again, what we want to do to get this all whole is one object. So right now we have Frank. That's its own separate text, and then we have the actual potato chip clip. We want to highlight both of those, clicking and dragging, and then group them. Ooh, there you go. You can then print this potato chip clip with your name indented on the side. And I think there's a question here. Yeah, awesome. So the question is, how did you get the text to stand up against the clip? Mine is only laying flat on the work plane. Great question. Let me show you. So what you want to do is, I'm going to bring the work plane back here. You've got your original work plane. And what you want to do is you want to click on a new work plane and place that work plane on the side of your potato chip clip and just click on it. And then you will see this new yellow orangish grid appear, and that will allow you to literally place the text alongside the potato chip clip, just like that. I hope that answered your question. welcome. Awesome. Good. So it's a really cool feature. And let's say, for example, you were building a house. Maybe this was just the foundation for the home. You could, excuse me, add a Workplane and click it and add it on top of that. And then say, add, go back to our basic shapes here. And you can add a roof and place it right on top. And when you use a the Workplane like this, you know it's going to be an airtight seal that will print with a 3D printer perfectly. If, you know, some people that don't know about the Workplane feature, don't know how to use it, they will try, let me get rid of this roof here. They'll try putting the roof, go back here, give you a better example. So what they'll try to do, if they didn't know about the Workplane feature, what they would do is they try to put a roof right next to it and then elevate it up. And they know, okay, my roof was, or the base of my home was 10 millimeters tall. So you can do that with math and figure that out and know that it's going to be sitting flush on 10 millimeters. But using the Workplane is so much easier to get things exact, and you know it'll be perfect when it comes ready to 3D print. Let's see here. So now I think we're ready for 3D printing. This is very easy to do. You've got your potato chip clip with your name indented here along the side, or whatever you want to put on there. Very easily, all you need to do is just hit export, and you're just going to click. It's going to allow you to hit download, and it gives you a couple of options for 3D printing or laser cutting. If you're going to be doing 3D printing, you want to use an STL file. That's just the basic standard one. OBJ will work too, but the STL has also been the most popular one. Yeah, so there's another question here too, guys. If you change your height of the clip, will the new Workplane change along with it? Great question. Let's take a look. If we pop on a new Workplane right on top, and then we change the height, oh, it stays at the original spot that you placed the Workplane. So if you change, you realize, oh, you know what, I wanted to make it taller, you can do that. You just got to go back, grab another Workplane, and put it on top. And you have infinite amount of Workplanes, so it's not like you run out of them or anything. You can place them wherever you want. So say you wanted to do a design up here on top, you can do that design, and then you're like, oh, you know what? I really wanted to add something, you know, along the curve here, and you can find that place that you want, and then you can design on that. And then you're like, you know what? I want to go back to that original Workplane. All you need to do is just click on Workplane and just drop it on the original floor, and it takes you back to your original Workplane there. So yeah, let's see here. Other questions? Looks like I got those all answered. If there's any more questions, please let me know. But just to go over again, the whole option for 3D printing, you can click export and hit click on STL, and that will then download to your computer via your downloads folder, and then you can attach that in an email and email it to someone for 3D printing. There's a lot of different 3D printing services that are out there. 3D Hubs is probably one of the more popular ones that you can select what type of material you want to print it in, and they'll mail it to you. And hopefully one day soon we'll be able to have a 3D printer at the library where you can send in 3D print requests as well. We're hoping to do that, but we'll take our time on that. There's a couple things that are going on that aren't going to allow us to do that right away. But hopefully when we do get a return to normal, and we'll start to offer that service at the library. And I did mention Minecraft. So this little Minecraft X here is another option here that you can start creating stuff for Minecraft and then export that out there or share it with people. So if you know any Minecrafters, that's a popular one. Let's see here. Oh, get out of here. I just went too far. So the Tinkercad symbol over here on the left-hand side, that is the Tinkercad home button. If you're ever stuck and you need to get out of something, click on the Tinkercad home button here, and that will take you back to your recent design page. You can see here's my potato chip clip. I want to go back and tinker with it. You can just click on Tinker This, and it'll take you right back to your work plan, right where you left off. That's, again, right here, the Tinkercad home button. Click on that, and that takes you back to your home account page. There you go. Any questions, please let me know. Let's see here. If you change, yep, we answered that one. Awesome. Any questions, guys? Feel free. I will stick around here for a couple minutes, but that in a nutshell is an introduction to 3D design using Tinkercad. I hope you found it enjoyable and informative, and I look forward to seeing your creations. If you have any questions about Tinkercad or the library, feel free to email me. You can email me at fmurray, M-U-R-R-A-Y, at itascalibrary.org. Or like I said earlier, you can get in contact with the library from our live chat feature that we have Monday through Fridays from 1 to 5 p.m. You can email us or give us a call as well. Leave a message for us. Again, this class is recorded, so we'll have this available here momentarily a little bit later on tonight on our YouTube channel as well, so you can go back and take a look at it. And again, I'll stick around for any questions if there are any, and thank you all very much for coming out tonight. All right, great. We got a question that just came through here. So they were able to add the text box on the new plane, but they're having trouble editing the text. It still says text. How can I edit it? Great question. This happens quite often, mainly because it's a cloud-based service. So it's going to take a second or two for it to update. Let's go back here into our potato chip clip here. So I'm going to scroll over to the other side. Start with a fresh side here. And then I'm going to grab a new work plane, place that on the side, and then go to our text feature. Text. Place that right there on the side. So you can edit the text right here in this shape box that popped up. Right where it says text, you should be able to highlight that or delete it and start typing in your new text. And when I was originally doing my name on the other side, it took me probably 5 to 10 seconds for it to actually take. But now that I'm typing here now, book came right up. So shrink that down. And then move it here to the side. And then there's a lot that we can do there, but I hope that answers your question. I hope that's working for you right now. Any other questions? Let me, awesome. Great, I'm glad that worked out for you. And also of note too, when you're designing, so right now, I got this crazy design here with book that's sticking out way over the edge here. I'm gonna go back to our work plane and get back to our original view. So if we were gonna 3D print this as is, this indentation would print no problem, be nice and clean. What would give us the problem though, would be this book that's hanging off the edge here. We have all this space underneath that has no supports. So if we were to just print as is, this would be all droopy and probably would not print correctly. If this is something you really wanted, a design that you really wanted, when you are importing your STL or OBJ file into the 3D printing slicing software that comes with the 3D printer that you're going to be using, it'll give you the option to put supports up here. So this will print cleanly, and then the supports underneath, you can just snap them off. But that's exactly why I did the indentation. I think it looks cool and it'll print nice and easy. Awesome. Any other questions, folks? I'm here to answer them. And something I didn't mention earlier too, with Tinkercad, it's a free account, and I have yet to run out of space with my account. It's unlimited. There's pretty much endless there amount of space that you can do when you're creating these things. Another question that just came in: can you import other STL files made by others and then modify those? Yes, and the easiest way to do that is within Tinkercad. So if we went back here, second, if we went to the gallery and say, oh, I really like this mom and dad illusion object here. If we click on it, we can click copy and tinker. And this will open up, whoa, right in our, right in a work plane for us. And then you can start adding objects to it and modifying it. Or there's a really popular website called Thingiverse that has millions of different STL files that people have created. Some of them are extremely elaborate because they're using more advanced 3D design software. You can import those, but it's a file size up to 25 megabytes. So you'll if the more advanced and complex the file is, or the bigger the object, you might not be able to upload it into Tinkercad. Yeah, okay, so there's another question here is there a way to move objects forward or behind? So for example, I have a name on the side of the chip clip. How can I select the text only without selecting the chip? So let me show you. Let's go back here. Let's see. That's a pretty cool mom-dad illusion design. That's, my brain doesn't work like that, but that's really cool. Somebody designed that on their own. That's just super neat. So back to the question: how do we move that text? So for example here, let's zoom in on my book here. Let's go back, get my Workplane on the side, and we have book over here. So if you want to move it side to side, you can use your arrow keys and move it one way from left to right or top to bottom. Looks like it froze up here a little bit. Doesn't want to go back down. Or you can click and drag with your mouse up, down, around. Or if you want to move it into the object a little bit, you want to change the view of your screen. So where you can see the side, and you can use the cone feature, the levitation object, or you can raise it up and you can see that's going off the build plate, or you can push it into the object, just like we did on the other side with Frank over there, how we indented that space. And so we push this into the potato chip clip a little bit here, and then we can create a hole. And again, highlight the object, click group, and there's book, nicely indented on the other side of the potato chip clip. Yes, yeah, and then another good question here. Can you ungroup items after you group them? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, and that's what's really cool about Tinkercad. So for example, that other file that we grabbed off of the gallery, the mom and dad illusion, you can then ungroup that and break it down to all the different parts and how they assembled it. So it's a neat learning option there too. But yeah, if you want to ungroup, just start highlighting and click and ungroup here. And we've got another one over here on the side with Frank. We can click. Oh, see, it dragged it away right away, but you want to click and highlight and then hit ungroup. There goes Frank. There we go. And now we just broke it down to all its core parts here. So we completely ungrouped everything. If I wanted to, I can just grab the cylinder and drag it out. Original cylinder from the very beginning. So there's technically, we've got the 5 towers, the 2 parts that make up the free throw line, and then the 2 text objects, book and Frank. We're looking at 9 objects there on the Workplane. Very good questions, guys. Awesome. If there's any more, please let me know. I'll hang on for a couple more minutes, but thank you again to everybody for coming and joining tonight. It was a lot of fun. We will have this recording available on the library's YouTube channel. You can go back and check it out. But keep on creating. Tinkercad's a very cool free resource to use, so you can start exploring 3D design. It's really nice, and it's easy for everybody. Anybody can do it as long as you got a little bit of computer/mouse skills. You can go a long way with this. It's pretty neat. I'll give it another minute here for any more questions. All right, everybody. Thank you again very much for attending tonight's introduction to 3D design with Tinkercad. Like I said before, we'll have this recording available on YouTube. And if you have any questions about this or anything with the library, feel free to email me. You can email me directly at fmurray@itascalibrary.org, or you can just email the library with a general question at itascal@itascalibrary.org. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great night. Stay safe and stay healthy.